Hello and welcome to Who Books That with Harrison Greenbaum. I am your host, Harrison Greenbaum. Thank you so much for joining me. We are here every Wednesday at 7 p.m. if you are on the East Coast. If you're on Central Time, as our featured guest is, that would be 6 p.m. And if you're on the West Coast, it's 4 p.m. And also, this show is available as a podcast. You can download it. Just go to whobooks.com. There's a link right to the Apple Music Store or iTunes, depending on how up-to-date your software is. Crazily enough, in terms of performing arts podcasts, this is in the top 100 podcasts in 5 different countries around the world. So a huge thank you to the United States, the UK, Canada, Germany, and Japan. We're in the top 30 performing arts podcasts in Japan. We can literally say we are huge in Japan. I don't know how or why, but arigato. Thank you so much. So that's pretty cool. And a huge thanks, as always, to the International Brotherhood of Magicians, the IBM, for presenting and sponsoring this show. Could not do the show without them. Huge thanks to outgoing President Alexander. Congrats on your tenure, and a huge congratulations to the incoming president. He's now the president of the IBM, Stephen Bergazzi, who was a guest on this show with his son Nate way back in the day. I was a surprise guest as well. And you can join IBM, magician.org/join-the-IBM/join. You can join if you're not a member already. You can renew your membership. You get the linking ring, programming like this. And they just do a really great job. They've done an incredible job throughout quarantine. And they have the IBM Jam Live, which is content that comes in every week. Really, really cool stuff. So make sure you check that out. Facebook.com/IBM Magic. And last but certainly not least, you can follow me on the Twitters and the Instagrams at Harrison Comedy. I'm on social media, so please check me out there. But now it is time to officially kick off this show with a guest I am so excited to talk to. She is the Close-Up Magician of the Year from the Academy of Magical Arts. She has been performing for over 4 decades. She's an incredible performer. She's an incredible story. She's coming to us all the way from Minnesota. Our first Central Time guest. Make some noise. Get excited. A magician so good she only has one name. It's Suzanne, everybody.
Oh, hi.
How you doing?
You did the best magic trick, Harrison. The best magic trick. You want to know what it was?
What was it?
You made me 6 inches taller.
That's right. I did. I in this little banner art there, I gave you a little, I put you on a stool, a virtual Photoshop version of a stool.
Okay.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Doing all right. Getting ready to be not locked down anymore. I'm ready for that.
Oh, I feel you so much. I've had a foray into live shows. I've done some socially distant outdoor shows in parks and stuff. But yeah, nothing really beats performing. I mean, all the things that make a really good comedy show, in particular, tight rooms, very small ceilings, indoors, are all things that coronavirus also loves. So
being able to high five people.
That's right. And the close-up gallery seems like the worst place to be for Corona.
Right?
At the
Exactly.
But we'll get to you in the close-up gallery at the Magic Castle. You're currently in Minnesota, but you started out in Battle Creek, Michigan. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's where I grew up. And then I moved here. I was about 24, something like that, when I moved here. So,
and I heard when you moved to Michigan, you ran into a magician at your apartment complex. That was one of the first ways you realized that magic could be a career.
Yeah, I like magic kind of entered my life in funny little times, and I never gave it any thought. But I was living in an apartment complex, and then across the parking lot in another building, there was this guy named Chris Jakeway. And he used to teach at Abbott's doing the Chavez course. And he showed me Chink-a-Chink was the first trick he performed for me, but he would never teach me.
Oh, wow. I don't know if in 2020 we're allowed to use that name for that trick, but
no, I don't know what's it called. I don't know what it's called otherwise.
No, I feel ya. No, that's amazing. I also think there was another sort of confluence where you met your husband, Lewis, and he was a musician, not a magician, but he also kind of had some magic connections.
Yeah, he was actually my guitar teacher. So I was playing guitar at the time, and I was playing in a lounge with this other guy, and he was going to move, and he said, why don't you just take the gig? And I went, I'm not good enough. And so somebody introduced me to him and to Louis, and he started giving me lessons, and then he did Invisible Deck for me, and it That's like the first real magic trick I ever saw, other than the one that Chris Jakeway did for me. Oh no, that Chris was later. So Louis showed me Invisible Deck, and then had me pick a card and called a friend, and while he was waiting on the phone, he was just kind of talking to the guy who was on the phone, and then the guy was able to tell me the card. Now I know what it is, but at the time I didn't.
That's a really strong effect. I mean, the Invisible Deck if that's the one trick you are in very good hands.
Oh yeah. So so he was kind of the start, and then he took me to Abbott's one time. We went down to Abbott's, and but I was a computer programmer. That's what I went to college for.
And that, I mean, there's a sort of mind, a sort of mental space you need to be in for computer programming, puzzles and problem solving.
Yeah.
Was that connected to your magic as well?
I think so. I think that's probably why I was drawn to it, because I always like the logic puzzles, and I'm always puzzling something out. And now Louis, we got married in 1986. Now he's a software developer, and I do this. So
right around that time, I think these photos are from around that.
God!
This is from the late '80s. These are some early promo shots.
Okay, so you know when that was, but I want guesses. Well, you already said late 80s. People want to guess that I'm like 12 or something there. But if you zoom in, you can see I've got on an engagement ring. So I was either 24 or 25 there.
And these
but I look like I was 12.
No, you look great. Was there a bird act at some point?
No, well, sort of. That was magical and mystical. My doves, and that was when I first started doing magic, and I played around with animals for a while. I had a rabbit named Rufus, and I taught him how to pick a card, and I couldn't do. I mean, I loved doing the stuff with the doves, but Louis was horribly allergic, so he kept getting sick all the time. We finally figured out he's allergic to the doves and the rabbits, and I really like close-up magic better anyway, so worked out better.
But one of the things that I read was that he was gigging at small clubs, and you were hanging out with him, and you were performing magic in that venue, and that seems to be sort of the impetus to shift into a more strolling vibe. Was that sort of the genesis of your strolling?
Yeah, so like I was taking lessons from Al Schneider, and I had like 4 tricks or something, and so I'm showing my friends who were also there to watch Louis play, and they're going wah at the table, and then all the people around wanted to see what was it that was making the people go wah. So I'd go and do magic for them, and they started giving me tips, and I came home with like $100 one night, and I went, gee, I want to do that. So that's when it's kind of got me started thinking maybe I could start doing. Yeah, so that's him playing at a club in downtown Minneapolis.
And this is actually a perfect segue, because he looks a little Eugene Bergery in this photo. And Eugene Berger was vital in your transition into restaurant magic, right?
He was. Well, I was actually already doing restaurants. I just wasn't doing upscale restaurants.
Gotcha.
So yeah, he actually wanted that beard to be kind of like Leland Sklar. So if you guys don't know who Leland Sklar is, just do a website, just do a Google search, and there he is. Boy, that was a long time ago. Oh my gosh. My kid is 30 now, and he's got to be like 17 or 15 or 17 there. But yeah, so
but in terms of like the restaurant magic, can you tell us the story? Because he helped you get moved into those upscale restaurants, but it was sort of that fits into what you were saying before about there being these moments where luck and good timing have transpired to put you in the right place at the right time.
Oh yeah. So in fact, I'll tell you another story after I answer this question. That is truly magic fell in my lap. So the restaurant magic stuff, I was already doing ground round restaurants, which if people, they're not around anymore, I don't think. But ground round were like TGI Fridays, but more kid friendly than that. They had like Bingo the Clown or whatever, and I thought,
did they have fajitas? Because that, as I did restaurant magic, and that was always the scariest food for a table to order, because that meant there was hot things coming around me while I was doing a vicious card.
I don't know. I don't remember fajitas. Yeah, it was just kind of like bar food. And so after Al taught me like 4 or 5 tricks, and that's all I knew, I was working at the ground rounds. I called a whole bunch and got gigs at 2 of them. So Louis is working in his band on Friday and Saturday night. I'm doing my computer programming during the day, and then Friday and Saturday nights I'm working 4 hours a night. I mean, that's huge to get 4 hours of practice in front of people twice a week. And so then Eugene came to town about 6 months after I started doing these restaurants, and he was talking about stopping doing little kids' birthday parties and doing corporate events by getting into upscale restaurants. And so I just went up to him after the lecture and asked, how do you get those upscale restaurants? And he just went, well, Suzanne, you must know someone. And then he wrote a name on the back of a card for me. And it was this guy named Toby. And Toby used to live in Chicago and worked with Eugene at some of the restaurants that Toby worked. And so and then he had just recently moved to Minneapolis and worked at like one of the most fancy restaurant nightclubs in Minneapolis at the time. So I contacted him. I did my 4 tricks that I knew. That was all. Oh, and then I knew the 21 card trick. I knew that one. So I didn't want to do anything after the 4 tricks. I was hoping that he would be good with those 4, because if he asked for another one, then I'd have to dig out the 21 card trick. But yeah, after the 4 tricks, he was like, yeah, start Friday. And so I had Friday, Saturday with this place called the American Cafe, Rupert's the American Cafe. And they were that was the place to be. It's like doctors and lawyers and CEOs and people like that would go there. And there were no kids there because it was also a nightclub. And so I really got my start there. Then within a year, I quit my job as a programmer and just did magic.
And I think this picture is from Gianni's, which also is one of the restaurants you've worked at the longest.
Yeah, Toby got me that gig too. So I mean, Toby is still my friend. This long out, yeah. So that was Gianni's Steakhouse.
And what's amazing too is Eugene gave you that recommendation. He had never seen you perform magic at that point, right?
No, he didn't know anything about me. I was just looking like I was this 12-year-old kid walking up the but yeah, so it was a great gift. And I asked him later, why would you give away such a golden name to somebody you didn't know, that I could have screwed it up there? Yeah, look at that. That's a long time ago. Wow. Yeah, so that was before my hair started going gray. Yeah, so I asked him, why did you give me that name? Because you didn't know me. I could have been horrible. And he said, it didn't matter that I didn't know you. If you can open doors for people and they walk through it, that's them. Once they walk through it, that's them. It doesn't reflect on me at all. And so I just like to open doors for people. And he did that for me quite a few times. He opened doors for me. So I miss him so much. He was amazing.
And we alluded to that. I mean, yeah, an incredible man. And I love that story too, because he touched so many people, and that's a perfect example of one of the ways that he did it. And another person that you mentioned before too, Al Schneider, was I believe you were posting online, and it led to you finding out about a magic club.
Oh, honey, better than that. What do you mean posting online? There was no online.
Sorry, you were sending pigeons to each other.
Yeah, well, basically. Okay, so for y'all old people, you're going to know what this is, but Harrison, you're not going to know what this is. being a computer programmer, of course, I had to have my own home computer, and I had a Commodore 64.
Ooh,
Ooh, you
64
know
bits.
what that is? You know what a Commodore 64 is?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, I had a Commodore 64, and with a Commodore 64, you could do this dial-up thing. You know what dial-up is?
Oh, yeah. My mom would kick me offline if she answered a phone call. I remember that.
Right,
Constant struggle.
Okay,
Mom, I'm online. And then she would answer a phone call and it was over.
Yeah, it kicks right off. So with the dial-up, with this thing called PlayNet. So this was before the World Wide Web. You get on PlayNet and you can play games like checkers and backgammon and chess and poker and stuff like that. So I'm waiting for somebody to play backgammon with, and some guy in Boston is waiting for somebody to play backgammon with, and we meet up. And I mean, this is where magic dropped in my lap. The guy asked me, and I'm beating him at backgammon, by the way. So he asked me, what do you do for a living? And I said, computer programmer. I said, what do you do for a living? He said, I'm a professional magician. And I went, oh, well, that's really interesting. And he said, yes, I happen to be the president of a magic club here in Boston. Let me find out who the president of the magic club in Minneapolis is, and you should go to a meeting. And so I went, and that night is when I met Al Schneider, except for he doesn't usually go to those meetings. He went on a fluke to go. And so, I mean, I don't believe in destiny, but if I was destined to do anything, it was to be, oh, hi, Simone, I miss you. Simone just popped up in the text thing.
Yeah, and Kevin Jones wrote, it's a very long comment, but most of all, Suzanne is patient and encouraging, and we have a good laugh too. Her lessons are my silver lining. Plus, I need to learn the 21 card trick tomorrow.
Okay, tomorrow, Kevin, 21 card trick. I will teach you that one. I can't believe you don't know that one yet.
But you mentioned, so you meet Al, and it's a fluke that he's even at the meeting, but he also connects you to the Magic Castle as well, right? I think your first performance at the castle is 1988?
1988. So Louis and I got married in 86, and we were going to go to Tahoe because Louis had an uncle who had a cabin there, and then we were going to go to San Francisco, and then we were going to go to LA. And so that was kind of going to be our honeymoon. And so Al said, oh, wow, if you're going to go to LA, you should go to this place called the Magic Castle. And I had never heard of the Magic Castle before because I'd only been in magic for a year. And so he said, I'll be able to get you in. So he made it so that we could get in. So Louis and I go into this magical place, and I step in, and it's like I'm a kid in a candy store. And I think at that time, oh my God, if I could ever work here, ever, even just once, I could just die right then. and my life is like everything in my life is fulfilled. And so then in 88, and I didn't tell Al I felt that way, but in 88, I said something about wanting to someday work there. And he went, oh, you're ready. I'll just go. So he called Bill Larson, and Bill just said, Al said, oh, one of my students is ready. And Bill said, okay, send him out. So Al sent him out.
That's right. Exactly. He just assumed.
Well, I mean, it's a reasonable assumption, I suppose. So, and so I got to go out, and Ron Wilson, the Uncanny Scott, was the early guy, and I was terrified. Oh my gosh. Oh, and there's Martin Nash, and there's Trixie Bond. Ah, that's fantastic. There's Martin Nash. Yep.
Yeah, these were the earliest castle photos that I had.
Yeah, this was at this was in 88. No, I'm sorry, this was 98. This is when I went out to work the Women in Magic convention, because there was a all women magic convention out there, and I was one of the lecturers, and that was from that time. But
this is you backstage at the castle, and this is you on the roof of the castle, which I don't think I've seen many photos where people have roof access.
You're actually not allowed to get up there, but I was friends with the general manager at the time, so he let me go in through his office. So yeah,
one of the people I know that saw your first performance in '88 was the professor himself, Di Vernon, which has got to be very intimidating, especially for your first time out.
Yeah, well, he was kind enough to wait until Wednesday to come in, and then he came in, and he had a cane, and he sat front row center and leaned on the cane like this the entire time. And so, you want to make eye contact, and the room is small. At that time, you could fit like 40 people in there because they had the people seated, and then they had 2 rows that would go, oh, look at that. That's in the Peller, I think. That one is. And then they had 2 rows that are back behind. So you could get like 40 people in there. And so you want to make eye contact with all the people. So I'm going eye contact with all these people. And then I skip over the professor and I watch. And then
he also was known to dress people down. If he didn't like you, he would stand up and say, "This is bad.
This is crap," is what I heard. I don't know for sure that he would do that, but somebody told me that was accurate. So and
that's in your head while he's in the audience. That at any moment he could stand up, say this is crap, and then
I was waiting for every single thing I was rating for. This is crap. Oh, look at that! My sister-in-law's on. Hey there, Robin. How are you, honey? That's cool. So that even a non-magician is watching here.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there waiting for him to go, this is crap. The show ends and he's still sitting there. It's like he's a mannequin or something, like some statue leaning on his cane, just no facial expression. And I'm thinking, I'm dead. He has this thing he's going to stab me or something, and I'm dead. I am never going to work the castle again. He's going to kick me out tonight. And so I'm just waiting. And at the time, there was this pocket door. And it had this real distinct sound when they closed it. Okay, swunk. And so some people in the know knew he was going to just stay in there and talk to me after they all filed out. And then I hear this swunk. And that sound is just so still in my ears. And I'm standing there going, okay. And then he smiles. He gets this glint in his eye and he stands up and goes like this. And then he leaves. And it's like my heart is like going, oh, what? And then he came to see my show 2 or 3 more times. And by the end of the night, by the end of the week, we were just buddies. So it was amazing to spend time with him.
That's surreal.
And then, it is surreal. Yeah.
And then I believe at the end of the week, he had some the comments that in the story that I read, it said, he said that you were the best female close-up magician he'd ever seen, which is very high praise. Yeah. And then you asked him what you could do to make your show better. What was his advice?
So he had seen my show many times, and he's sitting in the Vernon seat. You know that seat. So he's sitting in the Vernon seat just outside the close-up gallery, and I'm thinking, okay, so I've spent some time with him. I feel comfortable with him. I don't think he's going to be mean to me like all of the stories that people say he's going to be mean. And so I thought I would ask him what he thought of the show, and I would ask him what could make it better. So I said, you've seen the show many times. What do you think I could do to make the show better? And he went, well, Suzanne, wear a dress.
Which is advice you did not take.
I didn't take that. I see. My opinion is you need to wear what you feel comfortable in, and I really don't feel comfortable in a dress. You want to see me in a dress? So you would see me in jeans and a t-shirt and barn boots. I mean, I dressed up for you guys tonight. I put product in my hair and everything.
But I think it's interesting too because, like one of the quotes that I found that was from Jeannie in 2010. Where you said, Suzanne prefers to, the quote is, Suzanne prefers to see herself as a magician who happens to be a woman rather than a woman magician.
Exactly. Yeah. Because I don't think, I mean, a surgeon isn't going to be called a female surgeon.
Right.
They're going to be called a surgeon.
Yeah, nobody says, "Oh, I have a great lady doctor." They just say, "I have a great doctor."
Well, I have a great lady doctor, but she does lady doctor.
Right, she's a lady doctor. That's right. Touche.
And she happens to be a lady, or right. Yeah. But it's not because, right. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
But right. I would rather be a magician who happens to be a woman than, oh wow, she's a woman magician, because that puts a thing on it that I think doesn't need to be there.
Well, one of the interesting things, I was reading your bio, and it said the first woman to win Close-Up Magician of the Year, as opposed to saying the only female magician to win Close-Up of the Year, because there hasn't been any since you. But I think that's an important distinction to make, because when you say first woman to win, that means there will be more.
Right, and there will be more. There will be more. I've seen some young women coming up that are like just great. So, oh, and Todd Gerard just said, excellent point. Excellent point.
There you go.
Love that guy. By the way, hi Todd. I miss you, honey.
I think he's a fox, but I somehow still trust him.
He is a fox. Todd used to be one of the hosts at the Magic Castle, and he and I got to know each other quite well when I was there, and I loved going there to see him. He was one of the people that made that place really worth going to for me. So,
yeah. Well, I wanted to stay a little bit on what you were saying right before that, because one of the things that I've mentioned, I have my feet in both the stand-up comedy world and the magic world. And if you take a non-entertainer and say, name famous female comedians, they can start rattling off a list. But if you say, name a famous female magician, I don't know if they can name any. And I guess the question is, what are the steps that we can be taking to fix that? Because there seems to be such a disparity that shouldn't be there.
Well, okay, let's do this. First off, define famous for me. Are you talking household name or?
Yeah.
Okay, name 5 famous household name famous magicians. Period.
Right, that's true. You have like your Copperfield, your Blaine, Chris Angel, Carbonaro, and then Houdini. Right.
So people know Houdini. Like lay people will say Houdini, that creepy mind freak guy,
right?
That Chris Blaine guy, the guy who got mauled by the tiger.
Sure.
But see, they don't even know their names. So, and if we do the math, how many male magicians compared to female magicians are there anyway? I'm going to say, I sort of looked into it once. Female magicians in the club, that's about 5 or 10%, maybe. And if you look at all the male magicians in the club and figure what percentage of the male magicians in the club even do this professionally, let alone full-time professionally, let alone full-time professionally enough to, like, say, get on TV.
Yeah.
So it doesn't surprise me at all that there aren't household name female magicians. Doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, it's a numbers thing.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I had seen was that sort of idea that there aren't as many role models. Like, I think young girls growing up, we need to have the visibility of female magicians like yourself helps them know that it is totally an option for them.
That is possible. I didn't have a role model at all because I didn't have any magic influence when I was a kid. I just liked puzzles. So I don't. It's possible that role model stuff is important, because when you think of a magician, you think of a guy in a top hat sawing a lady in half. That's what you think, or a guy with a top hat and then pulling a rabbit out of it. But
right.
But it is changing. If you look at magic books for kids, you see a girl magician a lot of times, which is great. I'm loving it.
And one of the things too, we were talking about meeting people along the way at the castle. I have a couple of pictures. This one I think might have been at the Women in Magic conference.
Ah, yes, my buddy Max. I love that guy so much. Yep, that was at the Women in Magic conference. Yep, he was there with Erica, and he probably did a little lecture for us. And then I met Libby Larson there too. I love Libby. She's become a little great magician herself.
And by the way, we can double check. I know we weren't sure, but let's double check when and where this photo was. Let's bring on Max Maven himself.
Hey, Max, I love you so much. How are you, honey?
Hi, Suzanne. So good to see you.
Oh, good
Hi, Harrison.
to see you.
Hi, Max. Thank you so much for joining. Is this the Women in
I'm
Magic
pretty sure
conference?
it was. I didn't attend the full conference because I didn't fit the entrance requirements. The reason I was there actually was that Libby, who at that time was 12 or something, Libby Larson did a performance at that convention, and I had helped her create this little act that she did that was wonderful. And so I was given kind of a special dispensation to attend the part of the convention where she performed.
Gotcha. And how did you guys first meet?
Might have been there.
Possibly. I think we met at the castle prior to that.
Oh, possibly.
I think so. By the way, I need to toss in a clarification regarding Di Vernon.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was listening to your earlier discussion.
Absolutely.
He did not stand up in the middle of shows and say this is crap.
Oh, good. I'm so glad.
Well, I'll tell you why people thought he did. In his later years, and by 1988, it was his later years, he would have been past 90, his hearing was shot. And he never knew the volume of his voice. So he would sometimes be sitting in an audience and make a comment either to the person sitting next to him if he knew them, or sometimes just sort of to himself, muttering out loud. But what he thought was a quiet comment was at the top of his lungs. So if he said to himself, "Oh, this is crap," it was broadcast because it was really loud, simply because he had no kind of gauge on how loud he was being because his hearing was shot. So he was not so rude as to deliberately do that in a loud voice, but that is why people kind of thought he did. So I just want to salvage that part of the professor's reputation.
That's fair. Although that still would be pretty terrifying to hear him yelling that out.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he could sometimes be really loud.
Well, I was really scared whether I thought he was going to do that or not. It was quite intimidating to have him in the front row.
I'm sure it was.
Yeah.
I had him sitting in many of my audiences, and he was always very kind about my work, but you knew he was paying attention. And when he gave praise, as well as when he didn't, it was meaningful. He wasn't casual in his praise. If he liked what you did, and even if it only came down to giving you an okay sign, that meant something. He understood that his opinion was not. He knew you'd tell other people, right? He knew. He understood his position as being, sort of God in magic. And so he didn't just casually say nice things, because then it would undercut the impact and meaning when he said what he really believed. So if he liked what you did, that meant something. Yeah. Regarding telling you to wear a dress, I think it's fair to say that he was born in the 19th century.
Exactly, and that's how I took it.
And during his almost a century of living, during his lifetime, we saw the advent of motion pictures, radio, talking motion pictures, cars, airplanes, a lot of change over the
Commodore 64.
And the changes in gender identification of clothing,
And I think at that time it had, at the castle, it had just switched over to where women could wear
Pants inside the club.
Pants inside the club.
Right.
And I don't know.
So there was a rule where you had to wear essentially gendered
There was
clothing
a
up until a
time.
certain point?
There was a time in the early 80s, I want to say, or up until, I should say, the early 80s, where there was just a simple rule. Women wear dresses. Cocktail attire was the frame of reference. Men wear jackets and ties.
Yep.
But of course, fashion changes. So in the late 70s, it became fashionable for men to wear turtlenecks instead of shirt and tie. And the castle did not immediately say it was okay, but eventually they realized, okay, this is still now within the dress up rules. And similarly with women, for a while it was no pants, and then it became inescapable because things had moved and changed. So it became, okay, women can wear pants, but it has to be a pantsuit.
Yeah.
And it's kind of still that. I mean, what they don't want for women or men is someone to toss on a shirt and pants. They want it to be it's the strictest dress code. Well, the club is shut down at the moment, but when the castle is operating, it has the strictest dress code in all of California.
Yeah. So I don't think I would have been able to, even if I had worked a few years before, I wouldn't even have been able to wear pants, I don't think, to perform.
You might have, on the technicality that it was a performing costume.
Ah, okay.
But then you would have had to put on a dress to walk out and mingle outside the showroom.
Yeah, which I wouldn't have felt comfortable there.
In more recent times, we have, I won't name names, but there are a couple of performers who have worked the club who wear T-shirts as their stage or close-up performing attire, but have a shirt and tie and jacket backstage, and they'll change into that in order to go out and mingle in the club. So the T-shirt is considered a costume. It gets complicated, and it gets more complicated as time goes on, because the standards of dress used to be much more rigid than they have been in the last few decades.
Yeah,
and one of the things that you mentioned when you talked about Dai's praise being so valuable because it had import to it. I feel similarly that has to do with your praise as well. I think when you praise an act, it's very meaningful. And I know you're a big fan of Suzanne's. And what has struck you about her performances?
Well, I am a fan of Suzanne's, and I like her, and I don't mean that just off stage as a person, although that's true. I do like Suzanne, and we've gone to dinner a number of times and hung out and all of that. But what I mean in saying it in this context is, in her show, I like her. If I watch Suzanne's show and try to put myself in the frame of reference of an audience member who knew nothing about her until she walked through those curtains, I feel like I would like her in that context alone, that I would say, this is an interesting person. This is a person who's giving me something real, not a fake display of personality, but even if it is a fake display, it's coming across as real. You know, it's the old joke that many people have been credited with, of saying the most important thing in performing is sincerity. Once you can fake that, great. So I know Suzanne well enough to know that what she's delivering as a performer is real. But even if it wasn't, it feels real. And that's what's important in the context of the show. You feel like you're spending time with her and not being performed at. And you're getting some sense, even in the context of a short 20 minutes or whatever, you're getting some sense of her worldview. One of the things I love about Suzanne is that she has incorporated parts of her life into her show. I was listening to the conversation prior to being on about women in magic, and that you don't want to be a female magician. You want to be a magician who is a female, along with being short, being of a certain age, being of a certain disposition. I mean, all these other factors, and being a woman is an important factor, but by no means the only defining factor. And I get that, and I agree with it. But having said that, my favorite thing in your repertoire is something that I would never be able to do, not only in terms of presentationally, but it just makes no sense because it's all about your maternal side.
Oh, the Band-Aid trick, yeah.
With the Band-Aids, which with which you fooled Penn and Teller, since that hasn't been mentioned yet. That's been my favorite routine of yours, I think, probably since the first time I saw you do an earlier version of it. I love it because, first of all, it's about something other than here's a trick. It's not only about itself. Here's something A transposes with B. Applause. It's about something. It's about something in the real world that you have now brought into our magic experience. But in this particular case, it's something very specific to your own personal experience, having been a mom, having raised a child. And I think that adds so much texture and depth to your performance. And your other routines add texture and depth through other means. But that particular routine has always been my favorite because it's very real. It really comes from you. It really, I would have never thought of that routine. I've been involved in parenting to a degree, and I
disagree. I think you make a great mom, Max.
Well, that's another conversation, I suppose. I have been called a mother, but that's in a different context. But the thing is, it would have never occurred to me in my life experience to write a routine, to develop a routine that was about maternal instincts.
Well, it sort of fell in my lap, though, Max. Did I tell you the story about how that script came about?
I don't think so.
Can I tell you that story?
I would love to hear it.
So my son, Ian, who happens to be here tonight, I might even ask him to come down here. He was about 8 or something at that time. I had seen the guy who created the Band-Aid transpo perform at an IBM convention when it came here to Minneapolis in probably 1997 or 98, prior to when I worked the castle in 98. And I saw him do this trick, and he did it on me, of course, because I was the only girl in the audience. So he called me up, and he did this trick. And I wasn't fond of his presentation. I'm not going to say anything bad about it. I'll just say it wasn't my flavor of what I would want to do. But when it was done, I was standing there with Band-Aids with my initial and his initial that had transposed. And my response was, huh. And it seemed very much like a puzzle to me. And then I went to his lecture, and he had lecture notes, and I bought the lecture notes so that I could learn the puzzle. And then after I learned the puzzle, I went, yeah, I'll never do that. That's too futzy. And so a few months later, my son is bombing around in the living room and through the hall, and he bangs his elbow on the door frame. So he didn't break the skin or anything. He just banged his elbow, and that hurts like crap. So he ran to me, tears streaming down, and he went, Mom, I have to have a Band-Aid. And I pulled his arm away, and he didn't have any cut or anything. And I rubbed it, and I said, you're fine. You're not even bleeding. And he went, no, I have to have a Band-Aid. And then there's my little guy when he was 2. Look at that. So that trick, the solution to that trick went from the back of my head to the front of my head and went, this is a trick. And so I had to decide, do I write down the script before I give him a Band-Aid, or do I give him the Band-Aid? I decided I'd remember the script, so I put a Band-Aid on.
Good call.
And his tears dried up, and he started bombing around the house again. So it wrote itself. And I think that's why it's so effective, is because
that's why it has the ring of truth.
Right. It takes this personal experience and puts it to something that illustrates that personal experience. And I get people when I perform this for them, they could have had a good relationship with their mom, don't know. Maybe they had a horrible relationship with their mom, and this is something that they've been longing for their whole life. But I will do this for somebody, and I will imagine when I'm performing it what it felt like to me to put that Band-Aid on my son. So that brings up that maternal feeling for me as I'm putting that Band-Aid on my son. And I get this love back from them that is like, it's not, I can't even describe the love energy that I get back from the people. That sounds really woo-woo, and I don't.
I've seen it.
That sounds great.
I've been in audiences where it was clearly happening.
Yeah, and they get teary, and they'll almost always hug me after.
I didn't know the story about Ian banging his elbow, but as I say, that performance, that routine, has always had that ring of truth to me.
Yeah.
And so hearing that there was this epiphany that happened in a real life incident is not at all surprising, because the routine is obviously completely informed by that.
Yeah, and totally comes from the heart. I mean, I think about my son every single time I do it. I'm going to see if I can get him. Ian.
I was going to say, he was also in the audience when you did that trick on Fool Us. This is a picture from the show. So that's going to be a great full circle moment to have him watching the trick that his childhood, in essence, inspired.
Oh, it was amazing to have him there. I was so freaking out the night before the taping. And part of his job is, oh, there it is. Yep. Part of his job was to take care of autistic men. At the time, he was like a manager of a house for men with autism. And so in his training, he really got this very empathetic and caring calmness about him. And he came into my room in the morning, and I had been up all night just panicking. And I told him how panicked I was, and he kind of had me lay down, and he kind of rubbed my head and he rubbed my feet, and he just talked to me and talked me off the ceiling. And then when I started feeling better, he went, "Mom, you got this." And it was like, oh, wow. He just did for me what that Band-Aid trick symbolizes, but it was reversed, you know? And so that he was just so sweet and helpful. And so I loved that he could be there with me for that.
Well, I know Max has a meeting he has to get to. I appreciate you spending the time with us. Love seeing you all the time.
Great seeing you, Harrison. I don't get to see this show every week, but I drop in whenever I can. I was a guest once officially. Now I guess twice. So keep it up. This is tremendous. And Suzanne, I miss you so much.
I miss you.
Last time I saw you was in Minneapolis.
Oh, right.
And we had a lovely couple of days hanging out with mutual friends. And
that's right. You performed at our Sunday Night Magic show that we do. We were trying to do it once a month, but now with COVID, the theater is shut down. So.
Yeah.
But
hopefully at some point, sooner rather than later, we'll get back to some form of normalcy where we can travel again and actually see each other in person. So,
and I'm looking forward to giving you a hug, Max. I miss you so much.
We get. So virtual hugs. Have a great rest of the evening, and I'll be in touch with both of you.
Okay, take care, my friend.
And we have another surprise guest who is currently outside in a mask. I will show a photo because I think you'll know who it is, but it's a mystery photo.
Mystery photo.
Our next guest. You're hugging. I think you've just won Close-Up Magician of the Year. You're very happy. Who is that in the photo?
That is my brother, Jonathan Levitt.
There he is.
Jonathan,
trusting that it's him. He's wearing a mask. There he is.
Hi, honey.
Hey. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good to see you.
Jonathan also, by the way, helped me clean up the Band-Aid trick prior to the Fool Us thing. So if anybody needs any good mentoring, of course I'm mentoring too. So, but Jonathan is an amazing magic mentor. So.
Yes, and also make sure you follow him at Instagram, Jonathan Levitt. He's a great trick out called The Stranger, available on, I believe, both Apple and on Android. So make sure you check that out.
Thank you, my friend. And thank you,
You've
Suzanne.
written a couple articles about Suzanne in different magic magazines. I know you guys go way back. How did you guys first meet?
I have no idea. I feel like I've known you my whole life. We've been brother and sister my whole life. And I mean, look at that. That is the award show, I think. That is the award show, I think, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So I was hosting that year, and I was so happy that year.
Oh, I love that picture.
That's so great. I was hosting the award show that year, and I knew that we were about to give you the presentation, the award for Close-Up Magician of the Year. And that was really
it wasn't an
special.
envelope? There was none of those, who's it going to be? You knew before.
No, he knew.
Well, I was hosting the show. So I had to know.
I showed up.
Yeah.
I showed up, and I'm coming up the steep hill at the Magic Castle, and I see Jonathan, and I run to give him a big hug. He could not look me in the eye. And I kept trying to look at him, and he kept looking away, and then he'd hug me and he'd go, "You're going to have a really good time."
Did you know at that point, Suzanne, or were you still unsure?
I totally thought that I was not going to, no, I didn't think I was going to get it. I mean, geez, I was up against Armstrong and Delgadio and Goldenhurst and Boone. I really did not think I was just honored to be nominated. I was like, whoa, I got a free trip out to California.
Well, the fun thing was we were producing the show, and we figured, okay, so we had to think who should present the award. So for me, I had to hold this secret that Suzanne was going to get it. And then we had to think about who should present it. So we had David present it to you, right? To announce it. That was certainly fun. Yeah, we had there you are. Yeah, we had Keith David. Yep, that was fun, man. It was fun. No, Keith presented it. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Keith presented it. Yep.
That's right. So we had a great time. We knew we were going to have fun, and that was hard to keep secret.
And Mac King did. Oh, I love that picture so much. Mac King did his funny little cloak of invisibility to bring the thing out to hand it to Keith David. That was great.
That's right. That was great. Oh, it was such a fun time. Yeah, I don't know. How did we meet? Do you know?
Well, I think you had come to see my show, and I was already kind of friends with Regal at that time, and I had seen you on the X-Files, and as you walk out, I'm going, oh my God, that's the guy from the X-Files. And then you came up and gave me a big hug and said that you liked my show, and then we just were like buddies since then.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
That's a good story.
Together at the castle, right?
We have done many weeks together at the castle. It sort of became for a few years, it was a running, that's what we did, right? It was always you and me.
Well,
in fact, yes.
I think you told who was booking at the time. I can't remember.
Who's booking that? I
don't remember who was booking them, but whatever it was, you said Suzanne will never get booked without me. And so you made that decree.
That is clearly the kind of power that I wield. Yeah.
And I said I would not work late. And you said, well, you're not working with me then. And I said, then you're not working with me. I will not work late. I'm working early. And you went, okay.
And as a result, I started taking late shifts, and now they're killing me.
Okay.
They're killing me.
I'm sorry, you.
It's great. It's always fun working with you at the castle, and then we get to play with each other, and then we usually come into each other's shows and have some fun, and yeah, it's really great. I mean, you're my sister. It is really a lovely friendship. So yeah.
Yep. I love you, man.
And I know, Jonathan, you're outside, so I don't want to keep you too long. But I guess
That's right. I'm weathering the busy streets of LA with my mask, and don't live here. Don't live here.
It looks very nice right now.
I will never live there.
We
but
love
Jonathan,
LA, but it's a mess. Anyway,
I guess before we let you go, what is there anything else you'd like to say about Suzanne and your relationship? I mean, this picture sums up how close you guys are, and I think it's just a beautiful thing when there's this kind of brotherly, sisterly love.
Boy, that's a real hug right there. That is not a big hug. That thing.
Well, you had said, I had said something about not that. I said, if I win this, you're going to hug me on stage, and you went, oh yeah.
It's fantastic. Well, one thing I have noticed is Suzanne's very insincere. I don't know if anybody's ever said that, but she's very insincere. And it's just that's the first thing that comes to my mind. I'm sure that other people feel the same way.
Why you and I get along so well there, Jonathan.
Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us. I really, really appreciate you taking the mask off for a second and bunkering down near traffic.
Hey, Harrison, I appreciate you having me on. Suzanne, I love you, and
I love you.
I'm glad to see you here. And Harrison, thanks for having me, man. What you're doing is great stuff. You produce wonderful content, and don't stop doing it. Suzanne, I love to see that you're pushing forward. You're doing great work too, and I love it. We're closer. We're all closer now in COVID than we have been.
That's right.
Right. We've even done a social distance dinner, Zoom dinner.
We did. That was fun.
We got to do that again.
Yes, we do. It's great to see you. Love you all.
Harrison, thank you so much. Follow Jonathan Levitt at Jonathan Levitt on Instagram. He has great content through the Magic Castle, hosting a ton of great programming. Make sure you check that out as well and download The Stranger. Jonathan, thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Oh man! And by the way,
I love that guy so much.
He's incredible. The last physical Tannen's Magic Camp, we had our virtual Magic Camp for the first time this year, but Jonathan was a counselor for the first time the year before. And seeing him with the kids, and he blew those kids' minds.
Yep.
And it's just amazing. And there's some photos from the after party of when you won your award. I see your son's there, your husband. There's somebody in the who's the lady in the bottom right corner.
That's my best friend, Catherine Wilson.
And does she? Where's she from?
She lives just 20 blocks north of me. Yeah, we get.
So I guess it should be very easy then to bring her in.
Catherine!
Hi. Thanks for having me, Harrison. Hi, Suzanne.
Oh, Did I tell you I was doing this today?
I'm sorry?
Did I tell you I was doing this today when we had lunch earlier?
You did. I didn't know I was doing it today.
Oh, how'd they contact you?
Well, there's also this photo from the after party. And it's a confusing one because I think there's two Suzannes in that photo.
My friend Suzanne Herring, I love her.
It's double Suzanne in that photo, so we might as well have double Suzanne in this show. We have Suzanne Put the photo back together. Virtual.
Look at that, Suzanne. We have a Suzanne-wich with Catherine.
Yeah. Hey, that's my joke.
I know. I just wanted to get it out before you did.
Yes, if you want to follow Suzanne Herring, her website is theothersuzanne.com, which is very easy to remember. If you want to follow Suzanne, the Suzanne that's right next to me up top, that is youtube.com/SuzMagic. If you want to follow this Suzanne, it's theothersuzanne.com. That is not confusing at all.
Suzanne, do you want to tell people why you grabbed the othersuzanne.com?
Yeah, because when you come out here to California and I'm hanging out with you at the Magic Castle, they're like, oh, Suzanne. Oh, no, I'm Suzanne too. I'm the other Suzanne. So I got theothersuzanne.com and I put it to my page. But every time Suzanne leaves, then I take theothersuzanne.com and point it to her page.
Do you really? Because I'm going to.
No, I don't, but I've been meaning to.
You said you were going to, and you don't ever do it. That's okay. You can be the other Suzanne all the time.
And the reason I was able to find Catherine is Suzanne helped me out. Suzanne, other Suzanne. And Catherine, you told me you met at a gig. You met Suzanne at a gig And that's how you guys became friends, right?
I did. She was hired to entertain for a group of volunteers and staff for a conference I was resourcing. And I had never seen a magician, up close. And here she was. She did an invisible deck. Interesting that was another first trick. And I was.
You guys are best friends because you have magic terminology.
I guess so. And so I didn't know a thing about magic. And so we found out we lived 10 blocks away or whatever, and we just became fast friends. And she helped me learn so much about magic. I will never be a magician, but I have loved learning about it from her. It's just been really fun. And I've been out to the castle many times, and Max and Jonathan have been friends for me too, and Suzanne. So I've loved being Kiki. That's my nickname out at the castle. A lot of people know me by the name Kiki.
Kiki!
And I know you usually have you guys all crashed together? Has there ever been a Magic Castle slumber party? So to
yes, definitely.
Which one of you of the three gets in the most trouble? I feel like I know the answer.
This one down here on the one who's not making eye contact.
Yeah, that one. That one.
Yeah, she's the one who makes this one. Wait. That I can't do it. This one. Right. Wait, that guy can't get it. It's hard when you're in the Brady Bunch thing.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it's also mirrored, so sometimes I end up pointing the exact opposite way.
Right. That's what it is. Yeah.
And Catherine, you were in the audience of Fool Us, I believe, too, right?
Yes, I was. I had the privilege to be in the audience when she got Close-Up Magician of the Year, and also for Fool Us. It was just thrilling. And I watched Suzanne work for weeks and weeks and weeks on her own handling for that trick. It was just amazing to watch, to be behind the scenes and be her guinea pig for so many things.
Because I like what you say. Don't say it, but I like what you say when I do something new for you.
Yeah, I swear. Whenever she blindsides me, it starts with an F. Fool Us, right? And I thought I knew all the things, and then she'll do something else. And I have to, when I go to a restaurant to watch her, I have to watch my mouth, because she'll spring something on me in a public place. It's no fair.
Watch your mouth. What does that mean?
Well, Suzanne Herring, you also met at, I believe, at a performance, right? You were at.
Oh, well, we were both. Look at that girl.
Look at that. I don't think that was the one, though.
I don't think so. But
no, this is the only trade. This is one of the few trade show.
Man, I was searching my pictures from this thing. I couldn't find it either. But I used to do trade shows as a presenter with personality. It's kind of a step up from Booth Bimbo. But no, I used a lot of improv and comedy and stuff. And whenever I would do trade show, I would always go at least one meal with all the magicians who were performing at the trade show. We do lunch or dinner. And so I'm at this show, and it's this big electronic show. And I run into one magician, and he goes, "Hey, I hear you're doing linking rings at this one." And I'm like, "Linking rings? I don't do linking rings." And then later on, I'm like walking around, I run into another magician. He's like, "Hey, I hear you're doing magic at this show." And I'm like, "I don't do magic at trade shows. What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Yeah, I walked by the booth and I saw Suzanne, the magician." And I'm like, "Suzanne, the magician? What do you mean?" And then I start walking around because I'm on a break. I'm walking around looking for this booth, and I find it, and she wasn't there. But I see this sign that says Suzanne with the Z. That's in a lightning bolt Z. And I'm like, "Oh, Suzanne, the magician. I'm the only Suzanne in magic." And it like gets all catty and everything, as women always do. Just kidding. And I'm like, "Who is this? I've never heard of her. I don't know who she is." That there it is.
There's
the Z. And there's reason for the Z, and maybe Suzanne will share it. But so like later on, I go to the ladies' room and I see another woman in there with a microphone. We're both wearing mics, only she's like this tall.
Hey.
Hey, and she does not look like a typical presenter at a trade show. And I look at her and I go, "Are you Suzanne the magician?" or something like that. And she said, "Yeah." And it didn't go, it wasn't, it was like, we are best friends.
It was just
Boom.
kind of like
Oh. Wow.
And you guys were also roommates at the mystery school together, right? Because I know that was a hinge point, a pivot point, where I think, because we alluded to this before with Max talking about your Band-Aid trick, which is imbued with all this meaning and comes from a real thing that happened in your life. Did you guys both go through that experience together at mystery school, where you kind of started to marry magic with meaning, so to speak?
sort of. I mean, mystery school was a very interesting experience. It was like mind opening, and you know, all the stories about you believe in me? All the stories about people dancing around the campfire naked and sacrificing goats. I mean, I'll just tell you right now, there were no goats.
No, they weren't sacrificed. They stayed alive.
They did stay alive. Yeah. There were no goat sacrificing.
But we did cool things, like we made masks.
We did make masks. Oh, that's right.
Masks at Mr. Oh my God, there's so much dust in there. It's from 1997. I still keep that crap. I couldn't find one photo.
I think that might come in handy now. You can wear that at a grocery store. I think that's considered safe.
This mask. I'll just put this over it.
Right.
That inside that. There you go.
Oh my God.
If I'd known you were Suzanne, I'd have brought my mask down too, Suzanne.
Well, wouldn't have been a surprise guest then, would I?
Well, that's right. I could text my son and have him bring it down, and then y'all can meet him too.
Oh, there we go.
That would be good. Is there dust all over my face? Anyway.
I'll learn from your mistake and not put mine on.
I'm impressed that you have yours too. That's so cool, because that was 1997, and I searched for pictures, man. Harrison, I searched through this giant box. I found pictures of Magic Camp from before you were born. I think, because I really don't know how old you are, but I was at camp probably before you were born.
He's old enough to know what a Commodore 64 is. That's
there you go. Although you did send me this photo, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about what's going on here.
That's the Women in Magic conference. I don't remember if that was the first one or the third one, but Suzanne and I went to all three, and we were both lecturers at the first one and the third one. I think this was the first one. This was 97 also. If you look all the way up in the very tippy top, let me see. Where's Suzanne?
I'm looking.
Where's the? Oh, there you are. So right behind Suzanne is this little pipsqueak with these groovy glasses. That's Libby Larson. She was 9 there, and those are my glasses that I used as a character, because I taught a course on character, and also made fun of Irene Larson while I was doing some kind of goofy accent in a good way. We became fast friends too. But
when we were hanging out with her at the bar.
Oh, that was excellent.
We better not talk about that.
We're not going to talk about that.
Oh, now that's all I want to hear about.
You weren't there, Catherine. I didn't know you yet.
Yeah, but I've heard stories.
I think everyone has an Irene Larson story that they won't tell in public, that they're not allowed.
Yes, I have my share too.
Oh, I remember the first time I ever performed at the Magic Castle, and she bought me a drink, and it was just such a wonderful moment. And then she leaned in, she says, "I have a joke for you," and she told me a very dirty joke. And I was like, I love this lady.
I told you.
Yeah, I miss Irene.
Yeah, we all do. I know.
And Catherine, you sort of know Suzanne from both worlds. You're pretty close. You look pretty close to her, so you know her in her day to day.
Yes.
Is there do you see any difference between Suzanne the magician and Suzanne the neighbor?
You know, I think the big difference for me is, as Max said, Suzanne doesn't put on a fake persona. She is herself. And that's one of the things that makes her so endearing to everyone who sees her do magic. So I get to see her work, but I also get to go out and pet her horse with her. And so I have extra layers
Pet her
of
horse.
experience. You stop it. See, she's terrible. She's the one that gets us into trouble every single time.
Thankfully, I am very prepared, and I can show pictures that it is an actual horse.
See, I'm gratified to know that I took quite a few of the pictures that you're showing tonight. Actually,
on the wall.
That was
that's Hanky.
Yeah, that's her horse Hank. And we did our little photo shoot at the barn, and I just had a blast doing that. So I think that's the thing that I would say. There's a genuine person who is incredible at connecting with people, period. And she applies that when she does her work, and it's seamless. And, it's seamless.
I want to answer part of the question. I come off like an extrovert when I'm performing, but I'm very much not.
This is true. Yeah. You wouldn't know it, but she is an introvert. Yes.
Yeah.
And the other Suzanne is also very introverted at all times.
Oh,
Very hard to get her to talk,
much.
very quiet and reserved.
Hard
She's a
to get
shrinking
her
flower.
to come out of her comfort zone. I mean, she's just.
I was so nervous. I was like, will she come out of her shell for this? I just don't know.
Yeah, kind of put some energy into it, Suzanne, a little bit.
and we mentioned the horse. This is I think this is BB, the horse you raised since it was a pony.
Oh, she was just a little filly. She was only 1 when I got her. Hi, my son.
Hi.
Okay, I am not putting this on. This
There
is
it is.
the horse I made. I made this one. Here, kind of scoot down, and you guys can see my offspring here.
Hi, Ian.
Hello.
Hi, Ian.
Hi, Ian.
This is my offspring. This is Ian.
Hi.
Hello. Hi, Suzanne. How are you?
I'm great, Ian. How are you? It's so good to see you.
You haven't seen him in a while, have you?
No, was it since
what?
she won that award?
Yeah, in 2010.
Yeah, no, I didn't see him then.
Well, that's my little one there. He and I worked the Renaissance Festival together. But yeah, he's come over to fix dinner for me tonight.
Oh,
And Ian, I know you're a musician, so you
Yeah.
take after your dad, but was there ever a thought of becoming a magician?
I learned a few tricks, but I short answer is no. But, I play like a dozen different instruments, and I play at the Renaissance Festival.
yeah.
That actually. So yeah, that's me.
And the band.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that's interesting is like my parents have normal civilian jobs. So when you tell them you're going to be a performer, that's usually a hard conversation. Your mom is a magician and your dad is a musician. So was the conversation that you're going to do music, was that a hard one?
They named me because they thought I'd be a good rock musician. So I think it was more expected that I would be a performer than like an accountant.
Oh, but when he was in elementary school, he wanted to be a musician, but he wanted to rebel because Dad played rock music. So he went the other way and played that long hair classical crap. And then he played the upright bass. So he was in 2 youth symphonies, and then he went to an art school that was for a high school that was just all about music and all about arts, because there were other people who were like into drawing and stuff. So it wasn't music.
Yeah, music, dance, visual arts, media arts,
Yeah.
theater, and literary arts.
And literary arts. So yeah, so he's been in the arts for a very long time. He's super creative. And do we have Steve back there?
Yeah, but he can't hear.
Okay.
Oh, Steve. Hey, Steve, come and wave. You're on TV. That's this is my husband, Steve Catalano.
Hey, Steve.
And he can't hear a thing because he's here. Go on there.
That's okay.
Stick that in your ear.
Good.
I was just going to say the other way I copy Suzanne. I didn't realize it till this moment. My husband's a musician.
Yep.
And our son, who also has a beard and long hair now, is a musician too. And it's like, stop copying me.
Catherine, is your son? Do you have a son, and is he also a musician?
No, I actually have 2 daughters, and they don't do those things. But
and at the same time, they're still very amazing women. So.
Yes, they are. They are, indeed.
That's
what, a meteorologist or something.
One is a doctorate level. She works for NASA, and she does research on how satellites measure precipitation. And my other daughter is an amazing nurse. So.
Oh, that's awesome. If only they had done magic, though.
I know nobody's done magic. No, I tried.
teaching Libby.
Yes, she's teaching my granddaughter a few tricks. So maybe there'll be a chance.
That's awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining. I did just get a comment. Somebody asked if the horse would be a special guest. I have not been able to get a camera on the horse. So not to disappoint anybody who's watching, but there will not be a 5th screen with the horse live. We do not have that capability here on Who Books That. But Suzanne and Catherine, thank you so much for joining and for sharing this with us. So nice to
love you, Suzanne.
Thanks, Harrison.
Bye, you guys. Thank you, Harrison.
Bye.
Oh my God. And Suzanne, thank you so much. And Ian, thank you for popping in. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure.
And Suzanne, as we end every episode, if you have any advice for young performers who are watching, young magicians, young entertainers, young musicians, perhaps, what would your advice be for them?
Can I say more than just one thing?
Absolutely.
Don't take yourself too seriously. Remember that you're performing for people. You're not performing at them. And the magic isn't about you. It's about what you bring out in the other people.
That is perfect advice. Suzanne, thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for participating in this show. Hopefully you get to hang in person sooner rather than later.
I would love that.
Stay safe and stay well, and hopefully talk to you soon.
Okay, sounds great. Thanks so much for having me. This was so fun, and all the wonderful guests. That was such a surprise.
Oh, my pleasure. You know what? It just goes to show how well loved you are, because everybody was so happy to join in as soon as I asked, and I think that's a testament to you and what you represent in their lives.
Well, thank you. Thanks a lot for having me do this.
Thanks so much. Suzanne, everybody. Oh my gosh, that was such a fun episode. You can follow her on YouTube, youtube.com/SuzMagic, SUZ Magic. You could also follow her on her website, SuzMagic.com, and Twitter, Suzanne Magician. A huge thank you to all of our guests. There's Max Maven. You can follow him on Twitter @RealMaxMaven. Jonathan Levitt, that's on Instagram @Jonathan Levitt, Levit. And you can follow the other Susan, theothersuzanne.com. You could also follow her on Twitter or Instagram The Susie Show, SOOZI Show. And Catherine has a book coming out. Catherine Kiki Wilson, thank you so much for joining as well. That's groundedvisions.com. Make sure you check that out. Make sure you support her work as well. groundedvisions.com. That has been a hell of an episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're here every Wednesday at 7 p.m. If you're on the East Coast, 4 p.m. if you're on the West Coast. And if you're on Central Time, like our guest, that would be 6 p.m. This is presented by the International Brotherhood of Magicians. So make sure you go to magician.org/join-the-IBM/join to either renew your membership or to become a membership. Next week, we have a fantastic magician. Lynn Dillies is in the house, coming to you from the East Coast, from Massachusetts. So make sure you tune in next Wednesday and download this show as a podcast on whobooks.com. You can follow me @Harrison Comedy. That is it for now. A huge thanks to Suzanne and all the special guests one more time. And a huge thanks to everybody who has been watching. Ken Weber sending some applause. I send applause right back. Hope you're staying safe and well. Steve, thank you so much. Rob, we have Robin is in the building. Kevin Jones is in the building. Jim Cox, Matt Mercy, all the way from Los Angeles. Love you, brother. Thanks for tuning in. We have Lisa with 2 S's. Todd Gerard, of course, from the Castle. Good to see you. Joel, Connie, so many people from literally all around the world. Jeff Abbott, thank you guys so much for tuning in. And we'll see you here next week on Who Books That with Harrison Greenbaum. Cue the animation. I have to cue it. I'm talking to myself. Here we go. Who Books That? Who Books That with Harrison Greenbaum singing the theme song. I am singing it. That's me singing the theme